Hello everyone and welcome to the fourth episode of the Value Creator Show. The idea behind this show is pretty simple. There's so much tech and business focused information out there that it's easy to get lost. I'm trying to only find a couple of news and insights on how to create value, very practical things, and kind of discuss them with you, because the idea is maybe that's something that will inspire you, maybe that's something that you could implement in your current or in your future business, who knows. But for this week I've got something interesting, so I guess let's get going. Number one, today's messaging app. It's interesting because there's so many messaging apps out there and you might think, okay, what's new? But let's watch this video for now. As you can see on the screen, it's very similar to a traditional messaging app in terms of logic, but it's essentially a creative canvas. Now, I'm very bullish personally on gamification and entertainment because this is a very clear example of how something traditional, messaging app, which exists in iMessages, WhatsApp, can be actually reinvented. And this is why this is doing so well on TikTok now. And if you look at the numbers combined, this already got around 48 million views so far on TikTok, and the app hasn't even launched yet. It has already roughly 156,000 signups. So what this is actually showing is that there's definitely a lot of potential in the future to create value through entertainment and gamification. You don't necessarily need to reinvent the functions and come up with something super new. You can ultimately add that element of gamification on top and people will already be excited because, similar in this case, communication aspect is still there, but it's all about the way people get to interact with each other. I think this is a massive opportunity because going forward, I think there's so many businesses and services that could be reinvented through gamification and entertainment. You could literally provide the same service or product to people, but the competitive advantage or that sort of catchy point would be the gamification element itself. So maybe in your business, that's something you could implement. I don't know, but I thought this is really interesting, especially by looking at the numbers already. I mean, just through the TikTok videos, they already got 156,000 signups. I think this is personally massive. Now, let's go on to the next one. As always, every week we've got AI stuff now. I mean, AI. That's where the world lives right now. But this one is pretty interesting because I'm seeing so many startups now in this segment that I literally can't ignore it anymore, honestly. There's so many AI boyfriends, AI girlfriends, AI characters. Now, the numbers are crazy. For example, with this startup called Dippy, as you can see, you can choose different characters, but you can already create your own one and then other people can talk to your characters. And the numbers are actually pretty insane behind it because, I mean, look at different sort of categories here. You've got Tom Riddle, 326,000 conversations. Now, this is not for me to judge whether this is something that is good for the society or for people, but the numbers are actually crazy that a pre-programmed, essentially OpenAI model can be so interesting to a person, which leads me to an important question, I guess. Is there space for AI companions? Is there space for AI friends or bots? Because I'm really looking at all of these startups, and the way I see it, this is not a coincidence that we're seeing some massive numbers. And again, with all of the loneliness rates going up and up and people essentially being very often isolated at home, it seems that people are really enjoying AI friends. And what's even crazy is that the numbers are actually showing that people are more likely to share something intimate with an AI bot rather than with a real person. So again, this is not for me to judge whether this has potential or not, but I do think, again, this is an interesting space. So on a more practical note, maybe you can create an AI bot, AI friend in your industry specifically. It doesn't even need to be a girlfriend or a boyfriend, but I'm referring to, let me use an example of a UI UX designer, for example. So what you can do in this case, you can create a UI UX bot guru, and then people in your industry would be going to that UI UX bot guru, asking questions, sharing their experiences, and maybe even getting feedback. I do think there's a lot of potential for building these very smart bots, essentially, that you can go to. And also the interesting thing here is because let's say if I want to talk to someone, again, the UI UX designer guru, I might be feeling uncomfortable with sharing my real experiences, thoughts. So I'd go to the bot. And also I think cost is a big thing here as well. Because all of this is essentially free, I do think, again, there's a lot of potential in charging people $1 a week or whatever that is to provide that value, whether it's emotional, whether it's educational, to the person. But again, I don't know, let me know your thoughts on this whole AI friend, AI boyfriend, girlfriend, or AI avatar in general. I do think, again, there's a lot of potential. Now, let's go into the next one. Number 3. I've got two things really combined for you, but in the previous videos, I was talking a lot about the rise of niche marketplaces. So what's happening now, the way I see it, is let's take an example of an eBay. eBay is the platform to buy and sell different things. But over time, in the last 10 to 20 years, we can now see that a lot of people prefer buying from niche marketplaces, and the whole software space is becoming more niche, meaning that there's no longer one eBay. There's a separate eBay for clothes, there's a separate eBay for cars, for books, and so on and so on. And this is why in this video I want to talk about this startup called Passion Fruit. The way they're creating value is, as you can see what they say, the largest B2B influencer platform where tech brands scale influencer marketing. So what they're saying essentially here is, we're not a platform for just random creators and random businesses, and we're not here to meet, as I said, random people and connect them. This is a platform for specifically tech businesses and influencers. So the interesting element for me here is the model of marketplaces is not new at all, but the idea of selecting a specific niche audience on both ends, in this case again it's tech brands and then tech influencers, that's exactly what makes it interesting the way I see it. And again, I think as the whole internet space and social media space evolves, we will see even more micro niches. I mean, maybe in the next 5-10 years we'll need another marketplace like that, but for something even further within tech brands. For example, AI tech brands meet AI influencers, who knows? But again, it's interesting seeing how the model of marketplaces is still there and it's growing, but the whole trick is now in finding these micro niches and micro audiences on both ends. And to prove my point here, again, I've actually found, and I came across this startup that's actually growing quite fast now, called Show Busy. So it's production, staffing, and entertainment network built for freelance talent and then any people in the production industry. Again, you can actually already hire people on any of the platforms. You have a lot of very generic platforms like Indeed and Reed, I think, that are able to help you with hiring people. But this is an example again, but this is created specifically for production companies. The interfaces are adapted to their production needs, but the model of the marketplace is still there. But as I already mentioned earlier, on purpose, they've decided to stick to production companies on one side and then all of the freelancers and people involved in the production business on the other side. And that's what makes these models successful over time, hopefully. But again, to finish up on this, I do think there's a lot of potential in finding your micro niches and micro audiences that are not fully served, and then using the traditional marketplace model to build a service that is adapted specifically for their needs. I do see a lot of potential for this, and I just do believe in this whole world where there's a lot of micro niches and a lot of micro audience. Now, to finish off today, last thing. In the previous Value Creator show, I was talking a lot about the rise of, I called it privacy hardware and privacy software, because with so many tech around us, it's scary, right? Like if you've seen some of these videos where people are faking voices, all of these deepfake avatars and stuff like that, similar to the rise of advertising, we have seen the rise of ad blockers, or we've even seen the rise of VPNs. And I'm very bullish on the rise of, let's call it anti-AI tech or anti-VR tech or whatever it is. Same here. I found this tool, it's growing on Product Hunt now, hire deepfake voice detector. Now this is smart because you've probably seen these videos where someone pretends to be a daughter and calling someone's mother using a fake voice, and it sounds so real. So this startup is planning to basically protect people from this. So essentially you install this Chrome extension and then you switch on a video or an audio, and then hire deepfake voice detector essentially starts analyzing whether something that you're watching or listening to is a deepfake. And then at the end, as you can see, there's an authenticity score and it says, hey, 4 out of 100. This is a sampled media that is likely to be a deepfake. This is a very interesting one for me because I only think we're going to see massive growth of services like this. Because again, for every trend that there's out there, there's also going to be an anti-trend. And I think there's this big gap, let's call it value, that you can create for users to sort of act against that potential threat. I think personally this is huge. But again, this is only one of the examples of how you can create some value for the user by being an anti-trend. In this case, it's an AI deepfake voice, and then we got a AI deepfake voice detector. You can use this analogy in your industry, and I'm sure you can find many of them. But I hope this was an interesting one because it only proves, again, for every trend, there's an anti-trend. And that's all I have for you today. I hope there was a couple of very interesting thoughts or some examples that you can actually implement in your industry, or maybe you can come up with something on your own and build your future startup or business. Again, I hope you enjoyed watching this. Please leave any suggestions or any ideas. Make sure you follow my channel. That's the main thing. Your support honestly means a lot, and this is the reason why I'm creating these videos. And most importantly, importantly, have a great day, guys.